Hi guys, hope you're having a great evening. It's Fred and Sheila with Hatfield McCoy Museum and Adventures and FS Investigates.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us. This is part 8 and the conclusion to our interview, this segment or series of videos that we've been doing.
Right.
With the interview with Jimmy and Johnny Phelps on the telephone and in person. And at the end of the video, Sheila will have some photos to show and some other papers probably, if we don't show them as we go along. Guys, we may stop this one periodically if there's something I need to comment on. It's just too hard for me and my memory to try to go all the way through the video without stopping and then trying to remember what I wanted to respond to. So be patient. I hate to do that to you and hate to interrupt, but there are certain things that I feel, Sheila and I both feel, that are important. And that's why we interrupt. That's why we interject what we want to say there. We give Jimmy and Johnny time to speak their opinion and their piece, and then we like to respond. And the reason we do that is because these videos may be here for years and years after we're dead and gone. And if this case is not solved, maybe somebody can get something from it down the road. I don't know. But she'll go ahead and start the video here.
Okay, let me bring that up here. There it is.
We solve it as a homicide. I do.
Well, and I, great if I just tell you it's done.
Yeah, but you won't. But
okay.
But I appreciate your efforts.
Yeah,
I appreciate your efforts. Whatever you do.
Well, I'll tell you one thing we did. Jimmy and Johnny Phelps is not involved in this. They can say whatever they want to.
They get to the bank.
They can take, on my opinion, on 40-year career as a police officer, and I've worked some good cases and solved some good cases. I ain't saying something can't be. I can't be wrong, Johnny. I ain't saying because anything can happen.
I know those people out there can't take their name. I do too. I know.
But I don't think. I think we've solved that part, and I think for the Edrington family, again, babe. Let me see that one picture with just the hand, the gun with the hand, with the holding the gun. I'll hold that camera. You go look at that.
I don't want to see what
I want you to see the hand. He'll cover the face up.
Yeah, I don't want to see that.
You know what we was talking about on the way up here? I'm gonna block this. Turn around that way. Go to the other side so he don't have to. Just the gun.
Just that.
Right here. Just look at the gun right here. There you go. Thanks. Remember what we was talking about the placement of the finger or the thumb or something?
Yeah.
See, there's nothing. See how the gun's free-handed?
Yeah.
Just laying there.
In there. Yeah.
Because he's right-handed.
That's how you do it.
He's right-handed, so he held the gun and he pulled the trigger with his right hand.
You can. I got this turned around backwards. I'm glad you had them. I don't know. I don't.
But anyway, that's about where it is. That's what we know.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean that's it.
Well, I think we've got again. State police holds the key.
I'm going by just memory from the pictures, you know. But Johnny, his cruiser would have been sitting somewhere around this line, around this area.
This far down from the guardrail.
See, that's what. Did it show? Was the guardrail on the picture?
It's not in that picture. It's in the one in the newspaper.
I know.
No, there's nothing in the picture itself that's stationary other than this little hill. I've tried to take this little hill and look at it.
And things changed over 38 years.
It looks somewhere right in here from the hillside, the way it's at the peak.
Sure it was. But the thing about it, I remember that his head was kind of in a downward position.
Yeah. They said he was going down.
He was laying back on his back, but his head was this way. I mean, he's like that.
See, guys, here's my thing. Just me, and maybe y'all can help. But let's say he's right here with the violator. This guy says that the guy got on the passenger side of the truck with the shotgun while he's talking to this other guy. Goes up there and holds the shotgun on him, and the guy reaches over and takes his pistol. And as soon as he takes it out of the holster, bang, right between the eyes. And
he had to make a contact wound straight in, and he fell off her perfectly.
Yeah.
Like that.
Well, I mean, going downhill.
Then the gun, the blowback on the weapon,
everything, his body's completely straight.
Yeah.
the blowback on the weapon was not smeared. If somebody's gonna put that gun back in his hand, then you're gonna have to get that barrel somewhere, try to get it back in his hand to make it look like he kills. And if you're gonna kill somebody, why are you gonna make it look like suicide for anyway? You're gonna get in the car and get out of here.
Yeah.
And another thing is that he had an abundance of residue on his hands.
Well, see, I don't go with the residue thing because he's just been shot. Whether he shot himself or somebody shot him,
Right.
You're going to have residue. Now, if somebody else was, if Sheila was standing there and you come up here and you say, he's got residue, he's been shot, let me test her and see if she's got any involvement in it.
Yeah.
That would be where a residue would come in handy.
His body's perfectly straight.
I don't think a residue test on him would have been,
Do you think that he could be shot standing up and fell down perfectly straight? And
well, I think I don't want to get hurt, but I think if I fell back right now, that's how I'm going to land. I think.
Jimmy has mentioned, and we may have even put it in another video where Jimmy, or maybe it was on a phone conversation where Jimmy said, well, he was laying straight.
Mm-hmm.
He was laying straight. If he was standing up, he wouldn't have been laying straight, or I think it's what he's trying to insinuate. And Sheila has posted, I've had her to post the report, the Kentucky State Police report of Mr. Couch. Mr. Couch was standing up, and only he did do himself, but he is also erect. He is straight. So whether you are murdered or do yourself and you're falling, especially on an incline, because Mr. Couch was in that holler when he fell back. So he's also on an incline. So when Johnny fell backwards, when he was shot between the eyes and he fell back, he's got his hands in the air and he fell. That shot just knocked him straight back, and he landed exactly like he was standing. His hands were still in the air beside of him.
Yep.
Go ahead, babe.
We believe that.
Oh, yeah. More now than ever.
Right.
Going downhill, I think that's the way I would be. Don't you?
I don't think so.
Look here. Imagine. Imagine.
But it wasn't hardly that steep. Somebody gonna think we hit you.
Hey, get that on camera.
Second of all, we were all laughing there because cars went by blowing the sound on the traffic. I think Sheila's finally got that cut out now where you're not getting the sound of the passing vehicles. But somebody went by, huh?
I said, hope so.
Somebody went by and blowed, and Jimmy and Johnny was laughing. Then I started laughing because Jimmy said, they're going to think we've knocked you down there or something. We had a good laugh over that. It was funny because the way rumors get started, it's a wonder that wasn't all over Laurel County page or something. So, but we'll go ahead and finish there.
Okay.
No, it wasn't quite that steep. You know what I mean?
That's okay. It wasn't that steep then.
No. 38 years could probably make a bigger difference.
Might have.
Build up and so forth. But
Hey.
quite that. Jimmy did the picture to depict how close the bug was. I mean, that's what I was looking for. I'm sure there are some other pictures. That ain't every picture in the box. You know what I mean?
No, they got that was Joseph. They got 708 pictures. They told me
That's
on
what
the
I'm saying.
Joseph Couch case, but it's hard to tell how many.
How many they got here?
Yeah.
I
Well,
took a
back
bunch of them.
then though, it was 35 millimeter. Remember, had to develop them.
Tell me about it.
So it ain't like nowadays with these digitals where they can just
Just wear them out.
yeah. This is interesting, babe. I'm sure you didn't get none of it.
I'm so sorry.
Maybe the other camera, but it's okay. The pictures.
Guys, what we're talking about there is we cut a lot. We had to cut a lot of this interview out.
Sorry.
We had Sheila and the lady that had stopped they're talking, and Sheila's mic was closer to her phone, so it overrode. You can see the mic underneath my neck there, but where she's closer to the phone, it picked up Sheila and the lady that had stopped by, and they were talking about everything in the world. And it just we lost a lot of the interview with Jimmy and Johnny there. You can't hear between the traffic, but the traffic eventually died down. There wasn't that much traffic. It was just the fact that the background noise overrode what Jimmy and Johnny and I were talking about. And we had a good conversation. I'm sorry that we missed that, because there was some good conversation pieces there, but we didn't get them. Go ahead, babe.
On a positive note, they were nice people that stopped by.
I could have chosen.
I've got to do some research. They make a good point. The eyes open, or eye, and I'm trying to come up. I cannot remember. I ain't saying it couldn't have happened, but I very seldom. I can't remember.
I didn't get to finish what I was going to say there, but I can't remember in all the years that I was a police officer, and I've tried, and I'm sure that there probably is. I can't remember one where a S victim, a S side, had his eyes open. Most people that does that, or all the ones that I can remember, close their eyes. I guess they don't want to see it coming, or just natural instinct to close your eyes when something bad's going to happen. Johnny's was open. Johnny was looking dead in at his executioner at the time. I'll go ahead. He's showing me the pictures there of the road.
Okay, so where are we at? Is that the guardrail?
That's the car. No, the
Car
guardrail
facing that way.
And the guardrail would be up.
Yeah,
The car's facing that way,
Yeah.
so the guardrail would be up in front of it.
yeah,
So it'd be on the back.
The guardrail is up this way.
yeah. And see, I took some pictures from the newspaper, and it looks like with that hill, like you said, 30 years changed, but right at the top of the hill, about right here in this area, is what it looks like according to the shadow of that hill.
Yeah.
See how much
And it does look like it's not as inclined.
this area is, and that was winter time.
I don't know. That's still got a pretty good pitch to it, guys.
This is winter time, so it wasn't that much foliage.
I was going to say, now, if he's standing up, you would have overspray.
Yeah, but
But he wasn't. He was on the ground regardless. Whether you want
regardless who killed him, he was
if you don't want to believe the suicide part, then the homicide part, he was on the ground either way.
Yeah.
He was on his back.
And once again, we disagree there with Jimmy and Johnny. They're adamant about it. And as we went through some of these videos, there's some of the pictures that Jimmy and Johnny are showing me there. And as I went through them, I found some that was visible. They're blurred. They're hard to see. But once again, what they're calling a halo is nothing more, in my opinion, and I believe in 3 other doctors' opinions and several other state troopers, that's nothing more than, they say he was on the ground, whether he done it himself or somebody killed him, he was on the ground when it happened, because what they're looking at is what they're calling a halo, what I'm calling overspray. Okay. Brain matter. And what happened when Johnny's head hit that ground, when he fell back and that head hit that ground, whatever, the head had already been shot and already damaged. And when it hit that ground and opened, what was ever in that head came out. And that's just like we did, as gross as it was. But most people that's watching this is not watching it for entertainment. They're watching it because they're interested in helping to solve this case, helping to bring the murderer or ers to justice. And that's what you're watching. These are boring videos to watch unless you're really a CSI person and you want to help solve this crime. And what happened there was what they're calling a halo is nothing more than brain splatter, and it's went out. When that head hit the ground, the contents came out of the head, and you can see where it spread, just like the watermelon when we let the watermelon fall 6 feet out. And when it fell 6 feet in slow motion, you couldn't see it in fast motion, but in slow motion, you see what's in that melon coming out and the motion. It's like a vehicle. When you have a car accident, you don't have your seatbelt on, or you're not restrained, and that vehicle stops dead. Two cars hit each other head on, and they stop dead. Whatever's in those vehicles is going to continue to move forward unless it's restrained. I seen a guy one time had cinder blocks and a wheelbarrow on the back of his truck, and he hit another vehicle head on. The head on didn't kill him. Had his seatbelt and stuff on, but when he stopped, everything in the back of that truck, the concrete blocks and the wheelbarrow, continued forward. And that's what killed the guy. Yeah. So when Johnny's head stopped, everything that was in his head continued to move forward. They seemed to think he was on the ground. He wasn't on the ground. That was where the head hit the ground and the contents moved out and made it look like that. Sorry to keep repeating myself, guys.
No, you're good.
Why do you all think Johnny, 36 years ago, when we come up with this, we started doing the video on Asher's book. That's where we started at.
Right.
It wasn't like till 3 videos later that we seen the Corbin newspaper and it starts talking about Phelps and this and that being accused, and y'all traveling around to the jails trying to find out who started these rumors. And I told Sheila, I said, that's just rumors. That's just rumors. But more you read, and it's all over the place, and you start thinking, well, but
He said regardless, he was on the ground, whether it was out or
why do you think that people's told us, they started contacting us? One guy come through here that night and seen the violator pulling out. He was coming from Somerset. They'd been to a Christmas party.
No, why didn't he tell somebody about it?
Did.
Who did he tell?
Nobody ever came.
Don't believe that.
Nobody ever came.
There's another guy, a person called me, said he drove by and saw a trooper shot in his cruiser. Seen his cruiser was shot. I mean, they've told every story in the world.
But I don't believe that because if he was a man, any character at all, he'd have made a beeline.
Well, why wouldn't the state? Okay, look, y'all know.
Nut.
Okay. I don't want to name the other one because, but there's another one that called the state police 36 years ago when this happened, and about Foley telling him or telling them that he pulled him over in the truck. Supposed to take the truck out through here and put it over the hill out here. Truck's supposed to still be out there, but you can't get state police or nobody. I can't go climb. I do good to lay down there.
They flew all that area.
Let me tell you something.
They photographed this whole area from the air.
Okay.
I got the pictures are there. You can look at that. That's not Bob Foley. Anything Bob Foley tells you is a lie.
There's not an ounce of truth in it.
Nothing.
Well, I know that, guys. Bob Foley was a murderer. He's a murderer.
And you can't believe him. You can't believe a word he said.
This is what he does, though.
I know it.
This wouldn't have bothered him no more than a man in the moon. Like this guy
would
just.
not. And believe me, if we could have charged Bob Foley, we would have charged Bob Foley.
Yeah.
Believe me.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just he was
trying
the guy.
to do everything well, connect Bob Foley and couldn't. I mean, I remember when they was doing that.
Guys, first of all, let's put a alleged opinion, speculation. We put a disclaimer at the back of our videos. We could be wrong on things. What we're talking about there is Robert Foley. Robert Foley is sitting on death row in Kentucky State Penitentiary along with Ronald Lee Bolin.
Right.
Both of them's on death row.
Right.
Now, in one video, I'm not sure if it was this one. I think it was the last one that we've just done previous to this one.
Mm-hmm.
And we show Ronald Lee Bolin because me and Johnny was discussing when Ronald Lee Bolin was on his crime spree. And I said it was either 87, 88, and 89. He said, no, it was 90. And well, he was convicted in 90 or 91, 92. That's when he was convicted. But his crime spree was actually going on in 89, 88, and 89. In fact, just clear this up a little bit for some of you. Go look at the video or Google Kentucky State Penitentiary, death row. Look at Ronald Lee Bolin. Sheila's got the same printout on the video we did.
Right.
And it says that in January the 20th of 1989. Now, see, Johnny was killed December the 20th, 88. So you're thinking, oh, that was a year later. No, that was 30 days later. It just happened to be a new year. In fact, 30 days after that, on February the 21st, I believe it was, he killed his second or third victim. 30 days after that. So December, January, and February, 3 months there, Ronald Lee Bolin was robbing convenience stores and killing clerks. Could he have came down through there? Could Johnny E. have stopped him? Could that be the violator that he stopped?
Could it be?
Of course. Could Robert Foley? Now, we've been told by a person, and we believe that he was told this of what happened that night. A person was bragging about it, that he did it, and we don't know. We're not able to talk to that person. We wish we could.
Right.
Because we'd like to rule people out or rule them in. And, right here, right now, Johnny and Jimmy both, and Jimmy has been, even on the phone, he was adamant about, you can't believe Bob Foley. Bob Foley is a liar. We'll give you that. He's also a murderer. A person's past, I've learned in police work, a person's past will often predict their future. And if you want to know a person's character, look at who he hangs out with. Look at their friends. And the people that Foley was supposed to have been with that night when this supposedly happened was just like him. Birds of a feather flock together. So where Johnny is, and Jimmy both, is so adamant about Bob Foley being a liar, very well could have been, and he was. But he was also a murderer.
Exactly.
A murderer, a proven murderer of at least seven that he's been charged with over the years.
So if he did it, he wouldn't give it a second thought.
No, he didn't.
You know what I'm
Bob didn't
saying?
care.
That would be.
Bob didn't care to kill. He that's not one of his.
Right.
We have talked. There's an investigative person from another state that's is into crime stories and different things, and they're supposed to be trying to set up a visitation and so forth with Bob. They've gone to prisons before and interviewed and talked to people.
Right.
We're not having any luck at it, so maybe they will. We get, again, Sheila and I don't care who solves this case.
Exactly.
We just want it solved.
We would like to give the family some closure.
There's also another person that's we know of. Well, two other people that we know of that's trying to get visitation with Bob or Ronald Lee Bolin. And that's great. Again, until we can talk to them or somebody talks to them and rules them out, what do they have to lose? They're on death row. I believe that someday, it may be at the end of somebody's life. Our opinion is that if we don't solve this case now,
right,
that someday when one or both of those guys are put on in the chair or on that gurney as a death man's confession, as your last statement, do you have any last words? We believe that's our opinion. We could be wrong. We believe one or both will admit that they had something to do. That is who we suspect of this. Not those two guys behind me. Guys, it's been a
Interesting.
interesting journey.
Yeah, I agree. Very interesting.
Sheila and I are, well, the death of Kentucky State Police Trooper Johnny Edrington has become very important to Sheila and me. We have contacted anyone who we have felt could assist us in solving this murder. Yes, Johnny was murdered. We feel as hard about it and as convinced today as we did
Right.
at any time.
Exactly.
Even though in the beginning we feel this case was mistakenly called a S-side by a few, it's proven when Johnny's death was properly investigated by more experienced troopers, detectives. I don't want to take anything away from these two guys, but these were young troopers. These were young detectives at the time. We're not old like we are now.
Right. Right.
But when it was investigated by more experienced troopers and detectives and medical examiners, the cause of death and the manner of death was correctly designated as the firearm and as being a homicide, not undetermined, not pending, and not S-side. You know, in Dr. Huntsinker, these guys seem to have a lot of confidence in Dr. Huntsinker.
Yeah.
And in Dr. Huntsinker's newspaper article, where he says, and we've posted it in several videos, but he says, I have never told anyone that this was a S-side. He says up at the top there, in the top of that paragraph, that it could be a homicide, a S-side, or accidental.
Mm-hmm.
How could this have been accidental? Now, that's not Fred McCoy. That's not Sheila.
Right. Right.
That's Dr. Huntsinker. And I have a feeling that Sheila will probably put that newspaper article back up here again for you to read again. And at the bottom, it says, I've never told nobody this was a S-side.
Exactly. Yeah.
But he also says up here at the top, it could be a homicide, S-side, or accidental. And then we wonder why he put in his report and he told WLEX TV on their interview, Lee Searcy, he told her that he had ruled it undetermined. He couldn't determine what it was. Homicide, S-side, or accidental, he says. And then when they said he knew that the higher ups knew which way he was leaning toward undetermined, meaning he couldn't determine the cause of death. And that is where more experienced pathologists, medical examiners came in, took over the investigation, and they solved the investigation, called it a homicide. What it was, Johnny Edrington was murdered.
Yeah.
Trooper Johnny E. Edrington was murdered. Those who may have jumped to conclusion, aka rushed to judgment, may have done so because of inexperience at the time. This is mine and Sheila's opinion that we're talking now. They may have done so because of inexperience at the time. Most likely the reason the case was ultimately passed off to other, more experienced KSP investigators. We heard Johnny say in one of the videos that they were taking off the case and it was given to other detectives. Maybe, no doubt, more experienced detectives at the time. Most likely the reason it was passed off to more experienced KSP investigators. A few officers say they felt Trooper Edrington's death was a S-side. Why didn't they shout it to high heaven? Why didn't they file written complaints to the FBI and or the U.S. Attorney's Office at the time instead of writing a book 35 years later? We don't know why. You know, guys, I don't even blame, well, you can blame anybody you want, but let's blame the person that wrote the book 35 years later. Doug Asher, Lieutenant Colonel, retired, 30-year trooper, drawn a hefty retirement from the Kentucky State Police, but if he believes what he wrote in his book, he committed insurance fraud, in my opinion, and in my opinion as a 40-year police officer. When you don't speak up against something and you know a crime's committed, you're a conspirator. You're in on it. Now, he was the post commander there. He was these guys' supervisor. He was in charge of them. We can blame them all day long. Why didn't you go, guys? Why didn't you shout it to high heaven? But their supervisor didn't shout it to high heaven. He didn't shout it to nobody. He wrote a book 35 years later after the 3 pathologists and medical examiners had passed away 2-3 years earlier before his book come out. After they're all deceased, along with several troopers, Mr. Asher decides to write a book and put in a book and say this man committed homicide when it was on his death certificate and been investigated 35 years earlier and rightly called a homicide. How can you do that and not be held responsible? That's up to the family. Why didn't they shout it to high heaven 35 years later instead of writing a book? We don't know why. Maybe they were afraid of losing their jobs. Sheila and I believe if the Kentucky State Police would reactivate and actively investigate this case, it could be solved. We don't have all the files. We don't have, but we saw enough in those photos right there to know that it was not a homicide. Now, these guys may be convinced of that, maybe because they've told each other that, they've told themselves that, they don't want to be proven wrong. We don't know the reason. But we believe the state police could solve it. Not only would the murderer be brought to justice, but it would put a rest to the unsubstantiated claims of homicide that Doug Asher has brought to the forefront. We want to thank everyone who has taken an interest in this case or come forward with information. Our goal has not been to make enemies, but to find Trooper Edrington's killer and bring him or them to justice. In doing that, many objectives would be met. Unjustified and slanderous rumor of suicide would be dispelled. Secondly, to clear the names of anyone who has been wrongfully and unjustly accused of being involved in Trooper Edrington's death. Lastly, to give closure, peace, and comfort to the Edrington family. Sheila and I agree with the Kentucky State Police and the Kentucky State Medical Examiners David Jones, George Nichols, along with world-renowned
Vincent DeMayo.
pathologist.
Vincent DeMayo.
What she said.
What she said.
And others. Trooper Edrington's death was a homicide.
Yes.
Sometimes people must realize they made a mistake, a miscall. The preferred outcome is the person would be able to look at the evidence and accept that they, through inexperience, miscalled or mislabeled a case. It happens. Sheila and I are sure of 2 things in dealing with this, with Trooper Johnny Edrington's death. He was murdered while conducting a traffic stop. Truck driver seen him turn and go after the vehicle. A truck was stolen that night in Somerset.
Exactly.
Another vehicle coming up the road from Somerset later on that night saw a vehicle pulling out from in front of the cruiser.
Right.
After Johnny had been murdered. He was murdered while conducting a traffic stop. And number 2, KSP troopers Jimmy and Johnny Phelps were not involved in Edrington's death. We believe that as of right now. And just like I told Johnny, he said, can you take that to the bank or something?
You
and
can
I
take
said,
it to the bank, I think.
I said, from what we, in our opinion, guys, we're not fortune tellers. We're not geniuses. We're not. We have investigated this case thoroughly from what we can find. We don't have the file, everything to look at.
Mm-hmm.
We know there's a lot of myths out there. We know there's people says there's a FBI equivocal examination report that was filed, but it wasn't filed, but it was. And then other people says there was one never done. It's just like other things. That's nothing more than a rumor. We don't go on rumors. We need to see reports. We need to see people says his lights was cut off, his phone was cut off, his insurance, his car was repossessed. That didn't happen. We've seen proof that didn't happen. We've not seen an eviction notice. We've not seen an eviction paper. We've not seen nothing like that. As we say in our Hatfield McCoy history videos, if we are wrong, we challenge you to prove it. Prove us wrong with evidence, not rumors or speculation. Sheila and I love evidence. We don't care to be proven wrong,
Right.
but you have to prove us.
Has to be something factual.
You've got to show us.
Mhm.
Now, we'd like to ask Johnny and Jimmy. This is going to be the last video we do on this unless something new comes up or the good Lord sends something else to us.
Yep.
And it
You never
seems
know.
like he does every time we say we're through with it. This time here, Jimmy had posted and said, I'll tell them to call me if they want. And we did.
Mhm.
But we wish Jimmy and Johnny would share the photo of the hand with the gun. There's nothing there that's incriminating as far as the state police should get mad over. It's a picture of an open hand holding a gun.
Yeah.
Somebody has placed a gun in that hand. And we believe if you guys are like us, when you see an open hand with a gun just laid in there, a .357 Magnum with a hot round, meaning a Magnum round, as hot as it can go, that gun would not have remained in his hand. That gun would have gone away from his body.
Mhm.
We'd like to see that picture. If they don't want to post it, they can send it. If they'll text it to my phone, I'll assume all responsibility, all liability, responsibility. And if somebody's got a problem, they can take it up with me. If the state police gets ill at a person for posting a picture that they won't even open the file or investigate, then by George, at least it would get some attention. That would be sad that they would get mad over that when they won't even investigate and they've got the detectives that can do it. We'd also like for them to cover the head. Cover Johnny's head in those pictures
Mhm.
and let people see the background behind his head. What's there? We're going to show what I could get off of the picture from the GoPro. And I'd advise the family not to look. I don't know that you're going to be able to see a lot make out without really looking at the picture, but you can see behind. You'll see the uniform, and you'll see Johnny. You'll see his tie and his shoulder leaflets, and you'll see that overspray. You'll see it. That's not a halo. That's not on grass, not on dirt. That is overspray. That is what came out and spread out. We'd like to see those two pictures, and we believe that the people will realize that came from the fall and slamming to the ground. And we believe that when you see the hand open, you'll see that the gun was just placed in there. Now, Johnny or Jimmy, one says, well, they would have it would have been smeared because there was some blood on the gun. You had some flashback of the blood, naturally. But the person would have handled they've already got their fingerprints. They've already taken the gun out of his holster. All they got to do is they've got it by the rubber grips. Johnny had rubber grips on his Packmore grips and just laid it down there. The question is, was that gun even ever fingerprinted?
So I was getting ready to ask.
Well, I can see you raising up there. Probably what I knew.
The wheel was turning, didn't you?
Probably what,
Yeah.
Was it ever fingerprinted? Well, I think we had discussed this earlier, and I think that's probably why you're asking, but because that was your question to begin with. But was it even fingerprinted? Probably not. As sloppy as police work as was done by the state police on this case, probably not. And I've got a note there that says someday I think we're going to get a confession. It may be on death row, it may be on the gurney or the electric chair, but if we don't solve this case before then, we're hoping that somebody that's friends or family can talk to those two fellas they've been sentenced to death. They're going to
So
die.
they're not going to get anything from admitting either one of them that they did this crime. I mean, you know what I'm saying? They can't reduce their sentence or nothing. They're on death row. So
Yeah.
they're not going to get nothing in return for.
I think that if somebody just treated them like somebody,
Mhm.
sometimes it's not going to add to their death.
Right.
People just want to know. Family wants to know.
They need closure.
Friends. Johnny didn't. There was a comment that somebody had said, I think it was on a phone conversation with Jimmy, and I think it probably came from Johnny's ex-wife, Lisa. And he said that, and I'm speculating, I could be wrong where it came from, or maybe he might have told me that. I don't remember, but said Johnny didn't want kids. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. Diane and Johnny were actually trying. Johnny actually wanted a child. We've been told that that's part of the Johnny wanted kids.
Yeah, there you go.
I feel you, baby.
Yeah.
Johnny wanted kids. In fact, and she'll probably post it, but when he took Diane's urine to the KSP post, to the lab, and they actually run a pregnancy test for him to see if his wife was pregnant.
In November.
And they come back and said positive, and Johnny put a big heart, drew a heart. That's his heart that he drew on the paper. He was happy
No.
that Diane was pregnant. That was a month before he was killed. Guys, either way, suicide or homicide, but it's not suicide, so let's just take that out of the equation. But either way, somebody's committed a crime here.
Mhm.
If this was an S side and they allowed it to go as a homicide, Doug Asher mainly, because he's the supervisor. He's in charge. He was these guys' supervisors. He could have got more attention at any time than either one of these guys or anybody else involved. He was the post commander. And he said he went to a meeting in his book and he says, I didn't comment.
Yeah.
I didn't comment. It was so important to him 35 years later to write a book and slander Johnny's name, military record, state trooper record. But he went and met with the medical examiner's office. The people that would have, Jimmy talks several times and says, we need to have a coroner's inquest. What? 37 years later, a coroner's inquest? Everybody's dead? No, we needed a coroner's inquest then. Doug Asher says, I didn't comment. Wow. What a stand-up kind of guy. That man, by not commenting, is part of a crime, in my opinion, and the way I read the statute. Because if he felt this was a crime, if he felt insurance fraud was going on, if he felt somebody was going to get an insurance payment and this was a S side, then he's guilty. He's guilty of a crime. In Kentucky, there's no time of limitations on felonies. Maybe a Commonwealth attorney in Laurel County should be looking at that. That might be something to look at. Somebody's committed a crime. Ronald Lee Bolin, January and February of 89. Johnny was killed in December of 88. December, January, and February. Sheila, you got anything?
I was trying to
Take your time, because this has been a long journey for us guys.
Yeah.
Hopefully, Sheila and I, you would not believe the hours, and we're retired. We're retired. We traded one of our Hummers the other day for a shuttle bus that we're going to convert into a YouTube wagon where we can ride around and do videos, but we won't be sleeping in that Hummer no more like we did in Arkansas at a Walmart and our legs going to sleep.
Yeah.
We're going to put us a bed in it. We're going to do a video on building the van out, making us a little sleeping wagon out of it. When we get tired, we can pull into a rest area and we can rest.
Sounds
We've
good
got
about
that. We got a little boat. We should be out enjoying our retirement. And we got hooked on this after reading Doug Asher's book and seeing how, Mr. Asher, in our opinion, has done the Edrington family wrong, just like he did Jack and Patty, just like he waited till all these medical examiners passed away, several state trooper higher ups that he says he went to, they're not here to say now whether he went to them complaining or not because they're deceased. Dead men don't talk. We're very disappointed in him, but he's sitting back drawing a nice retirement check from the Kentucky State Police of 30 years. And now he wants to complain because a crime was committed while he was there, and he never said nothing about it, or never said it to the right people. Never filed a written complaint to the FBI, never filed a written complaint to the United States Attorney's Office, Kentucky State Attorney. He never, none of that. He knows how to do that. Any police officer knows how to file complaints, how to get an investigation started. If you want an investigation started, you know how to start an investigation. First thing I did on this case, Sheila and I, we wrote a letter to the Kentucky Attorney General. It's over there. We showed it on the third or fourth video, held it up. They say it's up to the state police. State police would be the people to go to. Well, that's why we went to the Kentucky Attorney General, because the state police is not doing what they're supposed to do. And usually you file a complaint and go to the next, and next.
Mm.
Did you think about what you want to say?
No, it's probably just about, which we done covered over the phone and electric and stuff. So
About what?
over the phone, where she was called that night. His wife was called.
Oh, yeah.
His widow was called
Yeah.
that night. And his last paycheck, it still shows that he wasn't garnished anything
Oh, yeah.
for taxes. So.
No, people can say anything 37 years later. And guys, we don't think those two gentlemen, in our opinion, had anything to do with the death of Johnny Edrington. We also don't think they were best friends. We also think there were some other things that occurred that didn't lead to his death, but they did occur.
Mm-hmm.
We have been told from reliable persons. So not everything that we hear or say or something, but that doesn't, just because everything doesn't add up on that part doesn't mean that somebody's took part in a homicide or covered up a homicide. The last thing I'll say here is that just because Sheila and I say something doesn't make it right, doesn't make it true. We could be wrong on anything that we have said throughout these videos. We don't think we're wrong on Johnny Edrington's death. I've seen enough of S-sides throughout life, homicides.
Mm-hmm.
I'm no genius. But I've seen enough to, Johnny Edrington was murdered, in our opinion. Sheila saw the hand,
Yeah.
the gun laying in the hand,
It was
no finger, no thumb through the trigger guard that would have hung up and pulled the gun back. Anybody that fools with firearms knows that a gun goes away from you if you're holding it backwards. The gun would have went away from Johnny, not with him.
Yeah.
And they said he used his right thumb to push if that's so, and the right thumb was in the trigger, on the trigger, inside the trigger guard, and it did get hung up, then that would have been the hand, the right hand would have been the hand that it should have got hung up in.
Mhm.
That's the thumb.
right.
The left one would have just been holding the handle.
Yep.
Don't add up, guys.
No.
It's cut and dried. This was a homicide. I wish the state police would humble themselves down. I wish the state police would say, hey, we're going to put some of our finest detectives on it. We're going to give polygraphs. We're going to interview. We're going to start over from that night. From that night, go interview the troopers that are still living today, right off the bat. Go interview them again. See if anything was missed. See what they remember. See how they felt that night. Start from there. Go interview the two guys that's on death row. Start anywhere and interview the people that says that they called 36 years ago. We don't know these people. They contacted us.
Right.
Interview them.
Mhm.
I won't put it on here, but there's other things that we're not putting on here that we're hoping that the state police would go and see if this exists or that exists, if it's still there.
Mhm.
Go interview the guy that came up the hill coming from Somerset and saw a vehicle pulling out after Johnny was murdered. Because these two gentlemen say, no, he just pulled over on the side of the road. That's where he was, and laid down in a ditch and done it. No, guys, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I respect them two guys, and they've been nothing but nice to Sheila and I. And I know I've disagreed with them, and that's okay. Hopefully, we've said we can agree to disagree, because if we don't even agree to disagree, I'm going to have to disagree with them. I think they're incorrect. They may have worked a lot of cases and solved a lot of crimes. No doubt they have in that career, but they're wrong on this one, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Talked long enough. That's it. That's going to finish the Johnny Edrington videos. We've had people contact us and ask if they could help. One person said they'd been working on the Karen Reed case,
Mhm.
and they're finished with that now, and they wanted to help with this case. We welcome anybody. You
Any
don't have
help
to.
we can get.
You don't have to ask our permission. This case is open to anybody. We urge anybody
Mm.
to go out and interview and investigate. You don't have to ask us if it's okay to go talk to this person or that. Go if you've got questions and you think a person will talk to you about it or give you some information.
Mhm.
Go do it.
Mhm.
We beg you to. That's it, babe. I'll ramble on. Somebody said I was a rambling man, but I'm trying to. Reason we're putting this out there is these videos are going to be on our channel forever, hopefully.
Yeah.
And if something happens to Sheila and I, besides we're not suicidal, either one of us.
Nope.
Either one of us are not suicidal, but you'd probably see that because we may go down. We go down with a fight, won't we, baby?
Yep. We'll have a choice.
But these videos will be there for the duration. If anybody ever comes up, they may be a fifth grader out there right now that someday comes up and says, hey, I'm going to look back, and maybe some of our videos or some of our rambling may help them to follow through with something else.
Never know. Anything's possible.
You're up, babe.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share. And we'll catch you on the next one. God bless. Bye.